RWBY Volume 4, Episode 6, the mid-season finale. Tipping point. First of all, let's get it out of the way right at the beginning. Velvet wasn't in this episode either. I really wanted to like this episode more than I do, and I really should like it more than I do because we finally did get some payoff for stuff. I just feel like the payoff wasn't big enough to justify all the build-up we've gotten. And I know this isn't the season finale, it's only the mid-season finale. But unless plot lines are going to start paying off as soon as the very next episode, it still isn't enough. At least not for me. Which, of course, I have to say, that doesn't mean I didn't like the episode. I actually really did like the episode. I just felt let down by it. First of all, let's talk about RWBY and her party, and the fact that their part in this episode is basically just a slight redress of their part in the first episode of the season. Are you kidding me? I get that they want to portray that this journey is taking a lot longer than RWBY thought it would, and by extension we thought it would, by showing that they aren't really getting anywhere, relatively speaking. But the visuals were virtually identical. They're in the woods walking with a map, and then they come upon an abandoned town that even looks similar to the abandoned town from the first episode. While in the first episode, Ren only seemed to know what was going on in the town. This time, he definitely knows something about the town. That's really the only difference. They even find one person alive in each town. It just so happens that the person they find alive in the town in this episode is the hunter guy from Salem's Inner Circle who wants to kill them. His name's Tyrion. And believe me, I have a lot of stuff to say about Tyrion. I'm not going to deal with it here, but I have a lot of thoughts about this character that I am going to talk about elsewhere. But despite the similarities there, we do get some payoff right here at the end of this part of the story, which they broke it up by focusing on RWBY and Weiss again, but RWBY's part of the story ended with a big fight with Tyrion where RWBY and the remnants of Team Juniper are completely overrun, and it's revealed that Tyrion is a scorpion faunus, the first non-mammalian faunus that we've actually seen in the show, which is pretty interesting. Then RWBY just gets pummeled until her aura goes down, and Crow rushes in to save her. Which, if we hadn't known that Crow was following them, would have been a dramatic reveal, but we did know, so it wasn't, which doesn't detract from the fact that it was a badass moment. Crow's here now. I'm sure they're going to be fine. After all, crows eat scorpions. And I love it when they give Crow moments to shine. He's a really interesting character, and I want to see more of him. But that's when the episode ends. We don't get to see him fight at all. We don't even get to see him turn around and push Tyrion back and then, have a standoff with him or something. At the end, the fight just ended up coming off as build-up to payoff that we don't get to see yet. It was still a cool scene, don't get me wrong, it just annoyed me a little bit. I expected just a little bit more. However, despite how cool that scene was, the scene that really did it for me in this episode, that really brought the entire episode home for me, was Weiss's scene. Scenes, technically, because we do get a shot of her singing first, and then we see her at a benefit after the concert. That second one is the scene I'm talking about. There's a bunch of rich people standing around discussing the validity of problems that aren't their problems to be discussing the validity about. And it's wearing on Weiss, and it's wearing on Weiss, and then she runs into, the ultra-douchey version of Neptune, and when she finds out that he doesn't even know what this benefit is for, that he doesn't even know that it's to raise money to help the Kingdom of Vale and the survivors from Vale, she loses it, she throws him out, and then she hears this woman talking about how Vale had it coming, and her feelings just kind of escalate. She starts screaming and telling everyone off, despite the fact that her father is right there in the room, her very controlling father is right there in the room. And then she accidentally triggers her summoning power and sicks it on the woman who was saying all those horrible things only to have Ironwood save her. And then compliment Weiss for being the only person in the entire room who's making sense. That's clearly the tipping point that this episode is named for, and it was spectacular. It was such a good scene, so much emotion. And this is going to sound like a really weird complaint coming from me, considering what I've been saying about this volume so far, but this was too much payoff without enough build-up. We know from Weiss's characterization and from what little we've seen of her and her father together this volume, why it is that she would react like this, why it is that she would behave like this. It's entirely in character, but I wish we had actually gotten to see more of her interactions with her father so that we could see this starting to bubble over earlier. We didn't need to, I just would have liked to, and with all the other build-up that they poured into earlier episodes, you can't tell me they couldn't have cut a little bit of that out. Or shortened a couple of Sun's scenes with Blake, for example, and just given us a couple more minutes with Weiss, showing us her interacting with her family. It's just more uneven writing than I would expect from these writers. But still a good episode, and Crow bamfing onto the scene and Weiss exploding at all the rich, vacuous assholes at that party are definitely worth the price of admission. I just hope that they manage to iron out some of the unevenness come the second half of this volume. As much fun as I've had watching these episodes, many of them could have been much better. But as per usual, guys, I ask, what did you think of this episode? If you have seen it, let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.